In Resident Evil 2, we follow Leon Kennedy, a rookie cop, and Claire Redfield, the fearless sister of Chris, as they fight to survive the biological chaos created by Umbrella. But what if we changed everything? Imagine if, instead of them, we had Solid Snake, the legendary soldier and clone of Big Boss, thrown right into the heart of Raccoon City's nightmare. Would his infiltration skills, combat expertise, and survival instincts be enough to face Umbrella's bioweapons? In this video, we're putting Snake face to face with every enemy from Resident Evil 2 Remake to find out if he's got what it takes to make it out alive. Solid Snake versus puzzles. Starting off light with one of the biggest enemies of Resident Evil, the puzzles. Jokes aside, would Solid actually be able to solve Resident Evil's puzzles? Well, the answer is obviously yes. Snake has an IQ of 180 and is extremely intelligent, trained in multiple fields of knowledge, not just armed and unarmed combat. He would easily overcome the puzzles of Resident Evil 2. Solid Snake versus zombies. Here comes the first real threat for Solid. Would he be able to handle Resident Evil zombies? Well, zombies may be dumb, but they can't be underestimated. The virus enhances their muscle tissue, giving them greater strength along with higher durability. Solid is superhuman in every physical aspect, but he could have some trouble if several zombies ganged up on him. Still, nothing he couldn't overcome or retreat from to regroup and set up a new strategy. We can also include poison zombies or A-gear. Solid would definitely be able to handle those variants, but he would need to be cautious not to get caught by the poison. Solid Snake versus cockroaches. Another enemy for Solid to face. The cockroaches, mutated by the T-virus. They could be a problem if they appeared in large numbers, since they're several times bigger than a normal cockroach. In large groups, they can swarm and cling to their target, killing them. But it's unlikely they'd succeed against Snake. Solid is way too fast and strong to be overwhelmed. He'd crush them with stomps or take them out with quick gunfire. Solid Snake versus zombie dogs. Zombie dogs, one of the most iconic Resident Evil enemies. I still remember being shocked the first time I saw them in the movie when I was younger. But back to the video, how would Solid handle them? Well, they'd be tougher than regular zombies. They're faster than normal dogs and still retain their hunting instincts. Plus, they usually move in packs. Solid could deal with them using his superhuman strength and weapons. They could definitely give him some trouble, but I don't see Solid losing this fight. Solid Snake versus Pale Heads. The Pale Heads are a variant of zombie that develop a kind of white mass over their skin. They're as dumb as a zombie, but they're faster than conventional zombies and have impressive regenerative abilities that could give Solid Snake some trouble. Snake would need to find a way to finish them quickly and suddenly, but nothing impossible for him. Solid Snake versus Lickers. Well, here's a real problem for Solid Snake. Lickers are considerably more powerful than a conventional zombie. That makes these creatures stronger, more agile, and tougher than a zombie, which already has enhanced durability. Lickers can cause serious problems for Snake if he isn't aware of their weaknesses or takes too long to realize that the creature tracks him by sound. Lickers also have sharp claws and a tongue they can use to aid in combat. Solid would need to be extra careful with this monstrosity and take it out without hesitation or delay, but I believe he would still win. Solid Snake versus Ivy. Here's another issue for Solid. The Ivies are very physically resistant and can play dead. On top of that, they regenerate even better than a Palehead. To kill an Ivy for good, you have to burn its body. Solid might take a little time to figure that out, but once he does, it would be game over for the Ivies, as Snake would torch them completely, either with a flamethrower or by using the environment to set them on fire.
Solid Snake versus G Adult. Now we've got a slightly more complicated threat for Solid. The G creatures, or G adults, are practically immune to firearms and must be hit in their weak spot, the giant eye on their shoulder. On top of that, they have the ability to launch G larvae, which burrow into a human body and grow, consuming the host and transforming them into a new G adult. Solid would need to be careful not only with the larvae, but also with the superhuman strength of these enemies. He'd have to wait for the right moment to land shots on the creature's eye to finish it off. Here, Snake could actually lose if he slipped up and got infected by the larvae, but overall, his chances of victory are higher. Solid Snake versus Alligator. Another formidable threat for our super soldier. The Alligator is extremely strong, durable, and fast, not to mention its massive size and resistance to bullets of many calibers. Solid Snake would have to use everything at his disposal to defeat the creature, or find a way to blow it up, along with the environment. I believe he'd win if he was very alert and prepared, but this would be a bigger problem than the G Adult, since the Alligator usually appears in very confined areas.
Solid Snake versus Tyrant.
Now this would be one hell of a fight. The Tyrant is far more powerful than the previous enemies and practically immune to bullets. He can take a ton of shots before even being stunned, and even then the damage isn't significant. It just gets dizzy and needs to recover. Solid would have to rely on his heaviest weapons, dodging skills, and super soldier attributes to escape Tyrant's attacks and counter at the right moments. However, even with Tyrant outside its containment suit, which makes it stronger but also more vulnerable, Solid Snake would still manage to defeat it with some difficulty, targeting its exposed heart and finishing the job. Still, the fight would take a while. Solid Snake versus William Birkin. The final battle of the video. Solid versus William Birkin. Would Solid have enough firepower and skill to defeat the scientist-turned-monster? William is extremely powerful, even stronger than Tyrant, with extra limbs that make him an even deadlier threat. He's practically immune to bullets, fire, explosions, and more, making him seem almost impossible to kill. Solid would need to be very cautious to take down William, relying on the right opportunity and a critical strike for victory, like trapping him until Raccoon City explodes, or finding some other alternative to completely destroy his body so he couldn't recover. Here I see a very high level of difficulty for Solid, where he could actually lose if he didn't use both his brain and his skills. But in the end, I still see his victory is more likely. So, victory for Solid Snake. So, what did you think about these matchups between Solid Snake and the Resident Evil characters? Do you think he'd really take down all of them, or would he lose to one of these monsters? Drop your thoughts down below and smash that like button to help the channel grow bigger and bigger.